Okay, so this is the Neverwinter Nights 2 toolset, or I think Aurora toolset, I think it's called, for the Aurora game engine, which is obviously what was used to make Neverwinter Nights and Neverwinter Nights 2, although they made a lot of changes for Neverwinter Nights 2. Obviously, they ripped out a lot of all the art and put new art in it and added new code, and yeah, so this is it. So, right, I've been using this to build my mod called Wulverheim. Okay, I'm open up a directory. I've actually got my modules split up into about a dozen different folders or modules. Uh, so these are all the module folders here, or most of them anyway. And these are all part of the same world. I guess you could call it. All broken up. And the reason why I do that is because of performance issues. I'm building a big open world here. So to make them all one big module file, it's too much for the game engine to handle, and I don't think there's any LODs or mip mapping in this. So what I've done to sort of make it easier on the system is to break them up into multiple modules and link them. So when a player crosses over from one module to the other, the game will then unload that module and load the next one in, kind of seamlessly. The players are pretty much unaware of it. So it's area based, but it's still an open world. It's just a way I figured out a way of doing it. Because Neverwinter Nights 2 wasn't really designed to work like that. It was very linear. You move on from one level to the next, and or you fast travel via a map. But in this, I wanted to make it a lot more like Oblivion. So yeah, here we go. Now then, which one do I choose? Let's see. I think I'll show you the starting town, so that would be Galamere. Okay, so I'll open this up. Okay, and after it's done loading, you pretty much have the content for the whole module. So you have area contents. That's when you open up an area, things will become visible in here, but at the moment it's all empty. You have your areas. These are all areas for this one module that I've made. A lot of them are interiors, and there's a few terrain, outdoor areas, and town areas. Conversations specific to the module, scripts. Most of my scripts are actually shared in campaigns folder, so they'll be brought in via campaign scripts. So this is all the programming side of it, most of which I've either pilfered from other people's code and adjusted, or is already in with the toolset to use at my own leisure. Campaign conversations, these are all the conversations I've written for all the characters throughout the entire game, that's shared across all modules. These are basically in tree form. So basically if... here was a good one. Maybe main quest. Do borrow. So this is what a conversation looks like. It's you have your NPC conversation, and that links onto player choices, collapse all. So yeah, these are all possibilities that may come up depending on the situation. They're all scripted as like conditions which decide whether the player will actually see these conversations or not, depending on what situation they're in. So there'll be like journal checks and whether they have a certain item. These will show up depending. I've got criminal scum ones here. So if the player's a criminal or wants a criminal, it does a check in their inventory for a criminal record. If they have it, then this will pop up, and the Duke will try to arrest them, basically. And there's obviously other conversation lines that will come up, and players will have choices depending. Let's see if I can find a bigger tree here. Yeah, so the blue is for the players and the red is for the NPC. And the greyed out are basically duplicated lines. They link on to... They're duplicates of another conversation somewhere else. So you have your choices, and then there's end dialogue and all that sort of stuff. Okay. Let's see what's next. So areas. The main thing I want to talk about is areas, because we're thinking about making a construction set ourselves for whatever game we make to prolong the life of it, which is always a good idea. So the thing I think really cool about this is how quickly and how easily it is to smash out a dungeon area. The terrain areas work pretty much the same kind of way as Unity. You sculpt the terrain, you can paint textures onto it, or if you've played The Sims 3, it's the same kind of stuff. And then you just slap down your prefabs, your models and stuff, which there's like loads in this. Obviously, there's so many assets to model in here. Well, would have taken a big team to model this because there's a lot of stuff. Yeah, it's like hundreds of assets that you can choose and use. And yeah, you've got your placeables, you've got your stores for shopping, doors obviously because they're doors, you know what they do. Creatures, which are obviously your NPCs and your monsters and stuff. There's triggers for traps and whatever else. Put a script in there, make an action happen. Player walks into a spot, make a wizard spawn out of nowhere and moon the characters and run away. Whatever you want to do. Encounters. These are like the default way of spawning enemies when the players enter a certain area or place or spot on the ground. The sounds, obvious reasons. Obviously, you know what that is. Waypoints. These are used as for all kinds of things, loads of different things. They're just basically pointers. Player doesn't see them unless you want them to see them. They can be used as map notes. They can be used as parts of a script or program for something to happen at this location, like spawn a creature here, spawn an object there, make something happen here. They use the waypoint as a reference. Static cameras, that's for for movies and cut scenes, which I don't do. Lights, obviously you know what they are. Trees, placed effects, which is like particle effects. Environment objects, which there's never a list for because you create them when you're in the actual area. Environment objects are basically static objects. They have all properties stripped from them, and it makes it a lot easier on the computer and the processing power, and the general size of the area. And prefabs, these are things I put together myself using objects, using assets. So they're basically a compilation setup of furniture or whatever that I can place down without having to redo it. It's a huge time saver. Okay, so now, dungeons. Okay, so I'll show you part of, let's see, okay, this is one of the mine areas that I've built for one of the quests that I've created within Wulverheim. So these are the corridors and the rooms with all the assets laid out. These are the waypoints I was talking about. These ones in particular I use to mark out where bandits will spawn. These blue lines here are triggers. These ones in particular are for marking out where the players cannot walk. It's walk mesh cutter. There isn't any collision in this game as such. There's no collision boxes except for I think on the NPCs and creatures themselves. When it comes to the environment, you can set collisions on objects, but I think it's more to process. It's hard. It takes up more memory and stuff. So it's best just to actually mark out where the players can't go. To give you an example, I'll show you the walk mesh or nav mesh. This is it. So you see the green mesh lying along the floor with the yellow borders. That's the walk mesh. That's basically where all NPCs and players can go. Where there's like a yellow or white border, that's where they can't go. This is very important for obviously setting up in the dungeon because it can be quite tricky because you have to bake it out and the computer has to figure it out where the player's going to walk, where they can't walk, and you can have a lot of bizarre results. So it can be quite tedious, but again, it's a huge time saver compared to laying out a walk mesh over the whole thing manually. So that's the walk mesh. grid. Every dungeon is built on a grid system. So you decide the size of your area, such and such by such and such, and then you start slapping down pieces of the dungeon and the assets and start filling it out for gameplay. Okay. This is I've got this at the moment to make it easier. I've got like a daylight setting which I use when I'm building, so I can actually see what I'm doing. By daylight, I mean there's actual times of the day that you can check out and configure within the tool set. So obviously, if you're building an area that's outside, you want the transitions of throughout the day, from morning right through to night. Obviously, that doesn't count with interiors. It tends to just get set to default. So, and obviously these are very dark areas, but I don't want to work like that because I won't be able to see what I'm doing. Right, so yeah. So basically, this is the sort of look and atmosphere the finished thing will sort of look like, minus obviously the things like that. That's a particle effect marker. That tells you where the particle effect is going to sit. The players won't see that. They'll just see the fire on the torch. Like so. Okay. Obviously they won't see the triggers or the waypoints. So it looks very similar to this in game afterwards, except obviously all the action's going on. There's more sounds. Yeah. So, and this is really, I'm going to say this now, it's fairly user-friendly. At the beginning I hated it. It was very difficult to sort of get my head around. I had to teach myself, I had to find tutorials, but, it's still pretty good. A lot of people use it. It still gives a lot of longevity to the game. But yeah, anyway, I'll show you how to begin building a dungeon area, how that works. So, go to the Areas tab, we do Add, New Area, Area 1, you give it a tag name, doesn't really matter because I'm just doing a demonstration. Select the area type Interior. Okay, so we'll go to, so next, and here you can decide what sort of scale it's going to be, what size it's going to be. This is how many squares across and squares down you want it to be. So we'll just choose 14 for now, and finish, and that should create the palette. So I'll turn the occlusion grid on so you can see it. I'll turn the bloom and fog off. Shadows, don't need those at the moment. So there we have the grid to start building on. Okay, and you go over here, we have the tiles tab. Basically, here you choose what sort of style you want, depending on what, caves, mines, crypts, estate, whatever you want your interior to be. So I'm going to go with caves because I really like the way they've. The way it fits together. I mean, it's a cave. It's an organic environment, and yet they've still managed to make pieces to fit together like a jigsaw really well. So if we ever do this, we're gonna have to plan carefully about how our pieces fit together. But this has been done really well, which is why I want to show it to you. So you begin by choosing a floor tile, and there are loads of different types here because obviously there's loads of different sort of layout situations in regards to rooms, corridors, doorways, stairs, and columns. Okay, so I'm gonna pick this one, which has one wall attached to it and two corners of columns. So I'll place that down, and I can rotate that with my right mouse and place that down, and you have a mirrored effect. So say we want to close this off into a room, we'll grab a corner piece with two wall pieces and another column piece to close the column. Rotate, place down, click. Okay, so now we have sort of the end of a room. Do the same here. And okay, so now we want this to turn into a corridor. So what we do is we'll grab this piece again, place that down there. That's now running off into a corridor, a place where we can put a corridor. So we grab a corridor piece, rotate, place down, and you see this is fitting all quite nicely, seamlessly, and they're all separate pieces. Okay, so now we want to do a bend, so we'd grab this there, grab another corridor piece there. Oh yeah, and you can also, using the arrow keys, you can change the styles of the pieces sometimes. Not all of them have alternatives, but some of them do, which is also really cool. So another example would be this straight wall. There's loads of different variants of it you can choose, and it still blends seamlessly with the next tile. So okay, let's stick stick a dead end piece with a doorway. Okay, and that closes that off. So there we have a very basic little cave which leads out through a door. Okay, now if you're building something on quite a large scale, or a lot, obviously this could be quite time consuming, because then after you've done all that, you've also got to place down all your like extra rocks around the walls to sort of mask it and make it a bit varied and look a little bit less modular. That's what I do anyway. And you know, your other assets like crates and barrels and chests and campfires and whatever else you want to stick in there, and bits of sources of light. Yeah, it can be quite time consuming, but it can be quite fiddly. And the biggest time consuming part, I think, is probably laying out all these tile sets. So what some really cool person has done is made a plugin for this to make this a lot faster and a lot easier. This is my favorite tool. I'll show you. It's called Neverwinter Nights 2 Mapper, for obvious reasons. It's a mapper. So this is a really simple, basic little interface here. Okay. Right. So what you can do, what I do is you can do read from area, so as it gets the exact size, which is very important, and also grabs the information that's already in the map, what's already there. But it doesn't copy everything. Like, it won't copy assets, and it won't copy what version of the tile piece you have in there. It'll just copy basic data. And here again, you choose your tile set type. So we'll go for caves again, and I'll do clear, clear all. You can zoom in and out. You can make this bigger. So you can paint floors, paint walls, paint columns, and doorways, and stairs, and it'll work it all out. If you've done something wrong, it'll tell you. You just click validate. It'll say, you know, something's wrong, and it'll cross it out. So it's pretty good. User-friendly interface. Okay, so I'll grab the floor, I'll paint the floors, and I'm just going to scribble all over the place. Caves are fairly organic things anyway, so yeah, they're not like corridors in a building, or designed like dungeon and fort ruins. Okay, so I might paint a few columns here and there. A few extra walls. Might create a room here. I'll put down a door there. I'll paint some stairs. And it's very important. Yeah, that's D for U for up, D for down. Up. It's very important when you do stairs that you build walls around it. You only have one way in. It's just due to the way the tile set pieces are designed. They've always got walls around them. Well, actually, you could probably do one wall. Might work. I'll check it with validate. Yeah, it's all valid. Okay, cool. Right. I think that's probably all we need for now, just to give you an idea. Okay, and when you're done designing the layout, top thing, you just click update current area, and it starts working away and generating the map that you've just smashed out. Okay, when that's finally done, I can put that down or close it, whatever. And here we have a cave generated completely from that handy little plugin. All the corridors, all the rooms are done exactly how I placed them down. Let's see, there's a stairway. And there's the room. There's all of it pretty much. And then you can still go around, go into tiles mode. You can select a tile anywhere, and you can still adjust the way they look, providing there are alternatives, by using the arrow keys. See there. The single walls have quite a few variants on them. So you can go around changing the look of the cave any way you want, pretty much, and then it's just a case of placing down the assets. So I can go over to the blueprints, and I'm going to go over to my my prefabs, which is already on, and I've got my own little like cave rock arrangements that I can place down just to disguise corners. And where's a corner? It's just to stop it looking a little bit too modular and identical around corners and stuff. I'll just like stick rocks. Oh, hang on. That's one annoying feature. Just ungroup and regroup to solve that. I can now rotate safely. Grab some more like corridor pieces and just lay them around, just to give it a little bit more detail and stop it looking, like I say, too modular. I just do that all the way around until I have like a proper looking cave. You can place down like campfires and stuff, and add the sounds and whatever of your NPCs and triggers and all your scripting events and all that happening. And the other thing is doors as well. Now this is how obviously players get around from area to area. I mean, you can have doors that just open up into rooms. I have all my own configured doors right here. Tunnel cave door. No, that's the wrong kind of cave door. I think I want a mine door. There are your doors. The players can open that and walk through them. And to connect to another area, you have like a door like this when you stick a transition on it. Okay, so that's in there. One thing I haven't shown you is the actual properties window. Everything has properties, so all assets can be configured via the properties window, including doors. These are the properties of the doors. Here there's like a huge list of scripts. Depending on what event, it'll fire a script off. When they open the door, it might explode in their face. Well, you can put a script in there that does that. Yeah, well, there's already traps you can set up on it. And transition, the important thing is transitions, obviously, to other areas. So you have, this says no transition, but you can do transition to a door. So that'll tell it that when the players pass through the door, it'll take them to another area via another door. And you put the tag of the other door in here. So it'll take them to the other side of the other door. And that's how they get from area to area. Back and forth. You can make it two-way or just one way. And you can also transition to like a waypoint, so they land on a waypoint instead of going through a door. So it doesn't have to be a door. And like I say, everything in here has properties, including objects. So it's like chests, for instance. You can all kinds of interesting stuff you can configure with scripts and whatnot, and you can preview stuff as well. So this is a robbable grave, and you have inventory tab as well, which is taking forever, which isn't going to the inventory. Why the hell isn't it not working? Okay, there seems to be some technical difficulties where the inventory screen isn't refreshing unless I move it. Okay, so yeah, you even have the inventory where you can put contents into it inside an asset, and you can edit this. You can create your list here, and you can drag anything into the inventory from the blueprints list down here. So yeah, all sorts of stuff you can do, and obviously you have your creatures as well. The NPCs and monsters, you can configure all that. So, you know, like humanoids, greenskins, goblins. So you can configure all sorts of stuff here for them, like what level they are, what skills they've got, the scripts and how they behave. You put all the AI scripts in here. There's more stuff here, which is also shared on the properties page, but this is a better layout for creating like a leveled up creature. And you've got your inventory again. You've got your preview of them as well that you can look at. Got an ugly little fellow. You got statistics again, which isn't refreshing. I have no idea. Okay, there we go. So you have your D&D stats. You can sort out and your feats as well, assigned and unassigned. All my creatures begin at level 1, and I've got scripts in there that when they spawn it levels them up to it copies the player's XP and levels them up via a package, which is a set form of a level up, where it'll always choose the same feats and skills depending on what package I've chosen. So it always sort of keeps it balanced for the players. You've got your special abilities and spells if it's obviously appropriate, if they're a mage. Armor set, which is how the default armor looks on their bodies. Yeah. So that pretty much covers the basics of the properties window. And you can place them down in here manually if you wish to, but it's better to, I think, to place spawns, especially if you want them to respawn after a time. Okay, lastly, all I just wanted to do is mention the scripts. I guess I've been told it's, I mean I wouldn't know because I'm not a programmer, but I've been told it's very similar to C++. It's called Neverwinter script. So I guess it's like UDK have their own programming. This also has its own. So I just open up one of these, and yeah, it looks pretty much like the same kind of sort of thing. I've never really been able to teach myself this. I've just sort of done a lot of guesswork. Like I say, I pilfer other people's code and I'll look into it, and I think, oh, maybe if I tweak that, change that number, change that, it'll work. And if it compiles, excellent. Then I'll test it in the game, see if it works. If it works, excellent. But most of the time, yeah, well, a lot of the time I'll fail and I'll have to try something else or just not do it. But yeah, this is basically how this tool set works as well with coding. You have your list and you just pop them into the properties and away you go. I guess it's kind of similar to Unity. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. All the basics of the Aurora toolset. Cheers.